Welcome to Steel Curtain Productions. Please hit the like, subscribe down below in your right hand corner. Muchly would appreciate it as we're trying to grow a good, strong community. And we thrive on not running with rumors. That's just, or using clickbait to draw you in. That's just my own personal philosophy. Anyway, it's September the 3rd. And as we know, this weekend we have our opening season game on the 8th against the Atlanta Falcons. So let's talk about the upcoming season. And as you could see, I kind of didn't go on the air a lot, even in preseason. I'm not a huge preseason fan. I tend to be on vacation during that time period. So I'm usually taking advantage of what's left in the summer for I've got things to do in the country and on a property of mine. So anywho, let's talk about it. Don't forget, tell your friends and family to hit the likes. Let's grow this community, and I appreciate my fans. All right, so we're going to talk about it. We do know the four captains were named. No real big surprises here. Russell Wilson. He's kind of been a captain on each team he's played for. He was a captain in Seattle. He was a captain in Denver. He of course, no surprise, was named for the offense captain on that side. With his experience, I'm not surprised on that move whatsoever. So no big shocker there. Next, I will go only because it's our CB's cornerbacks, Kilbrew, and that was probably um, the one where probably wasn't totally expected, but a good choice. Um, Miles Kilbrew will be a good captain, so no bad choice there. Again, not no real big surprise other than we weren't really sure who was going to be that fourth captain. Okay, then we get to the two usuals, who are the real true leaders of this football team at the moment. And what can you say? Cam Hayward has been for a long time now, and I think he's into his 14th season. He's getting up there. But no surprise, he's always been a great leader for the youngsters and joining getting the boys on the same page. So Hayward, no surprise, good choice. And of course, TJ Watt once again, since he is now, a good veteran for us now and coming in. And I'd say watch out for TJ this year. I think he got ripped off last season in award time, and I think there's going to be he's going to have a chip on his shoulder and something to prove to the league. So expect to see him back as the top dog in the Pro Bowl in his position. Don't be surprised. Great choices. So all good choices. Now we're going to get into some discussions because there's so much up in the air. And now what we want to talk about the preseason and that. Like I say, preseason for me has always been a nemesis because the Steelers in recent years have always done fairly well in preseason, and then we see them in the season and we're not so impressed. We get this big blow up. I'm kind of glad that they lost all three games, to be quite frank, because we do know that this team has really been pretty much overhauled. And when you look at the Steelers, so many moves being made. Um, uh, it's just incredible. So we got we got different offensive coordinator and coaches. We have totally different looking offense and complete different quarterback crew. Um, Defense has changed in a lot of areas. There's just so many areas and there's been a lot of big moves out, with Pickett gone and Johnson gone. And those were wise moves. These were, unfortunately, we knew Johnson was a prima donna, and we were finding out that Pickett had these qualities starting to rear up. Now, with those gone, unfortunately, it left us in a position of vulnerability. What was going to happen with us in this situation? So for me, I'm going to get into certain topics here. What do I expect for the Steelers? So I'm glad that they lost all three, and they seem to be, other than the Texans, seem to be really a bigger gap in the score, and I think the Texans showed they are a better club than us at this moment in time. I mean, Stout seems to have our number, and really, no surprise. But even in the, with the Lions beating us, I didn't really like that too much. We lost some close games there. The other two games, very close. But the Bills and the Lions, and it really lost them in you know possession, basically. One possession ahead of us, basically, in score chart. You get a touchdown and you're tied or you're winning. So with that being said, what it showed me, and I mean, again, we came out this time for a shocker, 0-3. That's a total change. I would rather see us choke in the preseason, and we did have a lot of new moving pieces to see where we stood. So, no massive surprises, other than sometimes I think uh, our coaching staff, in previous years wanted to show how good we were, and it actually tended to be a false precursor of what we really were. And great to have that standard, and I do like that standard. However, I don't like to set a standard that you can't live up to, and that was always my fear in the last few years. Is here we go again. These guys, because they were seem to be putting more out in the preseasons, and we look like we're one of the top teams in the league. Well, this one 0-3 doesn't look so promising, does it? But maybe it has the opposite reflection, and we come out and play well in this season and do better. This is something. It's really going to be a season unknown to all of us here. And as you can see, I'm proudly wearing my Heinz Ward jersey. I love Heinz. I wish we had and that's kind of what I wanted to drive to, was our receiver core. And that's where I feel we're lacking. And I've said it time and time again, even when Johnson was here, because Johnson's nothing to me, as far as he was always, to me, a number three wide receiver placed in number one, which is pathetic and that is just speaking volumes on our offense. However, we seem to be going into the season with Pickens more so being the number one. And I think this kid's got the capability of it. However, when you have a couple receivers go out, you kind of would prefer to, and I wanted to see us go after a number one wide receiver and stop playing games with it. And, it was the continual misinformation and rumorville being pumped by a lot of podcasts as well. And I can't jump in on that bandwagon. I was kind of pushing, if we were going to make the move, Ayuk, I would have liked to have seen. And, there was one out of Cleveland while he was available, but he got picked up pretty quick early in the off season. That's where I would have went. However, seeing the Ayuk thing, I couldn't jump out there and just put a bunch of rumor. I was tired of it, and all Steeler fans should have been. And now it looks like he's settled, contract signed in San Francisco, and I knew this was a lot of pumping the jam, a lot of pumping the air in the tires of a lot of guys that just wanted to bait you in and fill you with a bunch of nonsense. This was always going to be a tough move, and the Steelers there were other pieces involved in this as well, and whether it looks more like it was just a stunt by Ayuk to get his contract signed by San Fran. So with that behind us, we went out and got another lower breed wide receiver. To me, it didn't solve any receiver we picked up in the offseason did not solve the issue that's at hand with our receivers. So they better be hoping that George Pickens can be that number one. Now, I do think he was in my books, because I don't think we ever utilized him with Kenny Pickett or anybody prior to that moment that we got totally utilized to the degree he needed to be utilized to see what he had. I think this season we're going to know a lot more what true um, ranking Pickens is as a wide receiver, because I think it's really going to fall on his shoulders. Other than I do think the tight ends are going to have to be brought into our game plans a whole lot more, whereas we don't have the outright number one wide receiver. So I think the game plan has to change, and we have a whole new offensive coordinating team. So I think you're going to see it change. I hope our running game continues where it left off last year. We were looking a lot better than we had prior to. It seemed like our line was coming together. But in saying that, our preseason we didn't look so sharp on the line. Looked like there's a bit of confusion, but that also played into our quarterbacks communication, where we got two new quarterbacks as well. So hopefully they're going to get over that hump, because I think that's going to be the biggest issue, is whether the quarterbacks can get this line in sync with them when they're making play calls, because we've seen this cost us in those preseason games, just errant plays where someone misheard something and the ball got away from the quarterback and stuff like that. You can't have that in the season. So they're going to have to hopefully address that and hopefully get it conquered. It's not a surprise. It's not something we should be shocked about. You really got a lot. That line is fairly, there's a lot of parts on it that are new to the team as well and coming together, and two new quarterbacks. So we shouldn't be shocked, but we do. I think Art's going to have to really get Smith. That is, he's going to have to get that offense in sync. There's no doubt about it, because from the projections of what I've seen in preseason, we seem to have trouble. We even seem to have more trouble than last year scoring points. That could be a situation. Now it's evident we're going with Russell Wilson as our starter to begin the season. That clearly being looks like what the Steelers have decided. I think it's a smart move where he's a veteran. I think we also, this is why I have a different projection for our team than a lot of people. A lot of people don't understand me. I'm a diehard Steeler, but I'm a realist. And my realist instinct is telling me we are going to be bottom in the AFC. Sorry to say that, especially in the North, that is, more so the AFC North. We're going to be the bottom of that division. I am fairly convinced, unless they come out and shock me. So I'd rather have my expectations down with so much change. Um, they got to handle Fatno, the kid who was our number one draft pick. They got to handle him right and keep him in his position. I'm glad he didn't have to fall into that role in where we had the other gentleman go down to injury. But thank God it wasn't season ending, and that saves Fontenot being placed into a position that would have screwed things up for developing him properly. I say we got to keep him there. And if something happens, get somebody else in too. Don't disturb his growth in developing him properly. He's got a great write up, but keep him in his position. So, with that being said, I'm sorry to say this, but people got to realize something. I'm a big fan of Russell Wilson as well. But we got to remember, Russell Wilson, we're getting is an older gentleman. He's towards the end of his years. Let's be honest, be straightforward. He's not the Russell Wilson of Seattle Seahawks when he was a rookie. And even then, I think he was misutilized by the coaching staff, that they placed too much. Yeah, he was great, but they placed too much when you had, the running game that Seahawks had, especially in that Super Bowl against the Patriots, and they should have went with Beast to run that ball, and it would have been a short touchdown. So I think coaching staff put too much emphasis that Russell was more than what he was. He's a great quarterback, don't get me wrong, but he's not. There are quarterbacks that are above him. Let's understand it. Now he's at the end, towards the end, latter part of his stages of his career. We better be. Let's get off the gung ho here. He's not the Russell Wilson of Seattle. He's going to be an older version of Russell Wilson. Mobility is slower. Decision making is going to be a bit off because of his timing, of his speed. That line is going to be crucial to get in sync with him if he's to do, and he can do some positives with his experience, but that line has to be in sync. So that's going to be key and crucial. I think Fields could learn a lot from him, and I think again Fields showed some things as well that we heard rumors. I don't like to go with rumors whether he was throwing his line under the bus. I'm not total. I didn't clear out hear that from him, so I won't go on the bandwagon of podcasts that were putting that out there. I will. We know he's got prima donna modes to him, and hopefully they can work that out of him because he does have an athletic ability that is quite awesome. I think he can help that running game, to be honest. He's very mobile. That's going to be his plus. It's whether he can put the rest of it together. And again, with the O line communication, can he be a great communicator and get that line in sync when it's his turn? Because I do think at some point we may see a change from Wilson to Fields. But there's a lot to prove at that position. I don't know if we're settled there. I don't know if we have anything that's showing us the future there. I lean the opposite direction, where I think we're in a position after that Pickett thing went to garbage, the way that he ended up not being who we thought he was. I think we're in need of our starter at some point. Now it's great that we got Fields here, and hopefully he could be the guy. But for me, I think we may be looking at the years to come to fill that void properly and get our own guy. So we shall see how that all pans out. Now, I think we made a huge mistake in preseason when Dobbs was available. I do not know how we overlooked Dobbs. He had so much potential when he was with us, and I think with the pieces gelling better on that line, Dobbs could have ended up being the starter. And I think that's why he's shining for San Fran. They got a gem there. So I think we blew that. That was something we could have and we should have seen. And so that's going to be interesting. And that's why I say I still think we're going to be in the future seeking our guy at quarterback once again. So we're going to be in a dilemma between quarterback and our number one wide receiver in the up and coming draft, I believe. And yet, that line's not totally finished yet either. So, got some big question marks there. So, for me, I'm sorry to say this, Steelers Nation. I love my Steelers. I'm from the Steel Curtain era, and I'm going to tell you, I've coached football, and I just think there's so much change in this team. It's evident now. We seem to have an issue when you looked at that preseason as well in our defense, which was something we didn't have before. So now can Tomlin pull that in and get that back together? Because there are some big injuries on that defense as well that came through preseason and in training that were quite crucial, and we had to sign some guys to fill the voids. So can Tomlin get that back? And he's always been able to step up and get the defense back in mode. It's going to be interesting to see because it seems to show that we have more problems than we had before, which is normal with so many new moving parts on our team. It's like almost a completely new team here. When you look at them, there's wow, the amount of bodies that in and out, just incredible. Uh, so I think I'm bringing up a topic, Mike Tomlin. It's going to be a big question. Can you get that defense? Can the guy they chose for offensive coordinator? Because I'm not seeing where they've gotten that offense moving either, the needle. So we seem to still have that dilemma of not being able to. We're going to really be relying on our running game. There's no doubt about it. I think the X factor is, I think now that we don't have that number one wide receiver, I think the Steelers are really going to have to start utilizing the tight ends. I really think that's going to be the difference, that they're going to have to pick up the weight because we don't have that number one wide receiver. And so they can fit in with going cohesively with Pickens. That a little mixture there will be nice. So I think this is going to be it's really a wait and see. because we got the Falcons coming up, and this game is going to say a lot because if we can't beat the Falcons, we're in trouble. I'm going to say that because this is one of the easier matches in our schedule, and if we don't capitalize on it, it's going to show you and it's going to tell you a lot. And this team is in big trouble if we don't get the easy wins. When you have an easy week one coming up this weekend, the 8th, when you have a thing, you cannot squander that game. You have to win it, especially in the position we are in. This is going to be a tell-or-tale year, I believe, for Mike Tomlin. We all love him, but sometimes you get to a point where is an era over? And I don't know. I love Mike Tomlin, and I get a little nervous, in the future changing direction in that position. But coaches also tend to look at Belichick. The luck ran out, and it's just communication and a different era starts. So is Mike in? It's going to say a lot. Is Mike now has time caught up to him where the best of Mike was behind him? Because there's been a lot of question marks with our locker room that have gotten away right from the get go when he was here, and it just proceeded to get worse. So this year, to me, is going to foretell the future a lot, where this team is headed, where Mike Tomlin's capability of bringing this team together as a team, is it there? Or unfortunately, are we at a point where, in a year or two, we're going to have to move a different direction because I think this year is going to spell a lot, and I think next year will as well. So it's going to be an eye-opening year, I believe, and it's going to be crucial. I would, like I say, I'm not projecting the Steelers to get in the playoffs. I think there's too many holes. I think there's too much gelling to be done yet, and I think that North is too damn tough. I think the Ravens you're going to be your top runner, and the Browns will be next to them, and you can't Burrows with the Bengals. You can't shy off of him either. That easily could be a position where he moves ahead of Cleveland. But I think Cleveland's a better team overall on paper. But I'm sorry for me to be honest. I think we're running off a team of an older quarterback who's at the end of his years, doesn't have the mobility he had, still smart. He can win games for you with his intelligence if they can get in sync with that line. And they have to buy him time. And the same thing Ken Fields learn from Russell and get a grip of his ego because he could be something. He's definitely got the mobility. There are spurts there where he shows you mobility of a young Russell Wilson. Now, can he put the rest of it together and get his ego in check? That's a huge question mark. We know it is. So, with that being said, I do not foresee a winning season for the Steelers. I foresee us being in the bottom fourth of the league. I'm sorry to say that. I think teams like the Texans, if even moved ahead of us, I think Stout just has our number. I wish we had a quarterback like that. That's the type of quarterback we need. But again, we passed on Dobbs even because I think Dobbs had the capabilities, had the arm, had the running capabilities, and still had the age on his side where I think he truly could have been the starter if he had been picked up as the third quarterback. I think he could have overtaken the two that are, Russell Wilson and Fields. But we don't have that luck now, that luxury. So we got a lot of unknowns. So for me, this is a wake up call for the Steelers too. We have such an overhaul that so much has to gel, and they have to get it in check fast if they want to be in a fighting for a playoff. I don't see it. I just really and I'm not. Don't try to say I'm being down on the team. I just see that there's so much change there, and I do have to wonder: is the clock running out on a coach? Because it happens to the organizations. Um, this year and next year will speak volumes. So for me, we have the Falcons coming up, and I will review the game. Like I said, I didn't bother wasting too much time on preseason. But I didn't, one hand, I liked it that we didn't come out like we have in prior years, winning every game in preseason, and then we choke in the season. So Glad that we don't have that over our head, but that I'm a little concerned when you lose all 3 games, especially when it's Detroit Lions. That was concerning. So we got a lot of alarm bells, a lot of question marks. Are the Steelers headed for having to turn around in the direction they go in building this team as well, coaching wise? And that's a scary, scary projection because I love Mike Tomlin, but has the magic rubbed off now? Is this an error where it's one error too far ahead, like Belichick, where it just doesn't work? The magic he had in his coaching abilities doesn't work with this generation player. That's the big question, and we'll find out. There's going to be a lot of unanswered, and I think T.J. Watt and Hayward Bay they're going to have huge impact on that defense, getting it in check in the fight, and even on the overall team because they are the two true leaders. And Russell Wilson's experience is going to come to the forefront as well. But boy, are there a lot. I cannot be giving you false information and projecting a bunch of hype that I don't see in this lineup yet. I think there's too much to see, and I think the first 4 weeks are going to tell a big tale. I always think that that's an important period, and when you have easy games, you can't be like you were when you were able to be a playoff team. You can't just let these easier games slip away. So they have to win this game. This opening game is going to speak volumes as well. Those first 4 games are feelers for all of us to see how cohesive this team is and what the potential is and what rating are the quality of players we have. So I just wanted to run off that, and we got to stick to letting the kid, our number 1 draft food tuna. If I'm saying that properly, forgive me, I might be butchering her, but I say you leave him in his actual position. You don't make him fill a role to disturb his development. So, with that being said, I want to thank you for joining me. Leave your comments. Tell me what you think. I welcome them. Just be respectful and polite. We don't take garbage of insults to anybody on this channel. And eventually, we're working our way to eventually being able to go live for some videos too. I'm going to be upgrading this channel down the road here, hopefully within the next year, and we'll see what happens. But we're hoping to have some live episodes. But thank you for joining me. Leave your comments. Be respectful to each other and to myself. We're all entitled to opinions. We're all Steeler fans, and go Steelers go. Steelers Nation, there's nothing more than I want my team to be back to winning, but I'm a realist, and from my perspective, I think this team is going to be bottom section of the AFC. Sorry, caliber-wise. That is my projection for 2024. But remember, even this opening game against the Falcons is going to speak volumes. We have to win this game. Have to. So thank you. You've seen it here at Steel Curtain Productions, and we will catch you in the next episode after the first game of the season. We'll have a lot more starting to show. God bless you. Catch you in the next one.